Welcome and welcome back to my channel. This is Lily Loves Learning, and we are a homeschooling family of one, and she is going into the fourth grade. And so I wanted to go over today a little bit about ZEARN. ZEARN is a math curriculum that you can use for free. It comes on a website. The website is www.zearn.org. And it follows if you've ever heard of Engage New York or Eureka Math that the public schools had used, it was developed and is free for anybody to use. ZEARN follows that same program. They just make it a little bit more engaging because it has videos and walks the students through online. So if you don't mind an online program or you're looking for an online program, ZEARN can be a great resource. So I wanted to kind of show and walk through the website so you can see what it looks like. You will need to sign up for a teacher program. And then when you get on there, then you can make assignments. If you have multiple students that you want to have in here, you can create the student accounts for them as well. Or they can do it directly in the teacher module. So I'll kind of go over a little bit about the website and then walk you through one specific, they call them missions. So first, there is a curriculum tab and then the reports. So if you do have students that you assign and you give them different assignments that they complete, then you can get reports on those to see how accurate they were and such. And there's additional resources you can have as well. So if you go to the curriculum one, there is K through 8. So this ends in 8th grade. Even though the Eureka Math and the Engage New York go through 12th grade, you would only be able to use ZEARN through the 8th grade math program. And then once you select your grade, you can either do it here or you can go to a specific grade and then mission, which are like the different kind of chapters within each grade. I will pick, since my daughter's going into 4th grade, why not? We'll pick 4th grade. If I go in through that method, this will give me an overview of grade 4. So I won't be going to any specific mission yet, but this will give me an overview. You can find out overall what the course guide is for that particular unit. So if you want to see the scope and sequence for the grade that you're looking for, it kind of gives you visually how long each of those missions take. And then they do have some recommended pacings for each mission within that grade. So you would have this available to you for each of the grades. And then farther down, you'll have the different missions that this specific grade is broken down into. So for grade 4, there are 7 missions, and it kind of gives you a title and a little bit of information about what's covered in that mission. You can click directly on that mission, or at the top, you'll have that grade 4. And then in the overview section, if you click on the arrow, it will give you a drop down for each of those. So for instance, if I'm going to the first mission, I could click on that and then hit go, and it will send me to the first mission, which is basically the first kind of chapter section of grade 4. And then each of these mission pages are set up pretty much the same way. There'll be a mission overview at the top with a little description. Similarly to jumping to a specific mission, you can jump to a topic within that mission. So if you click on the arrow there, it gives you what each of the topics are within that mission. And then there are multiple lessons usually for each of those topics. On the instructional material side, there's the teacher lesson materials, an assessments answer key, and a foundational guidance. For the students, there's the student lesson materials. So there are some printouts. Usually it's just a couple of pages that they would have, even though it's online. There would be a couple of pages that they would have for each of those lessons. And then they have an assessment, usually a mid-level assessment, and then end of the mission assessment. What I did when I used this program is my daughter went in and watched the videos, maybe did the independent lesson just to kind of cover one of the problems online. And then I printed out the problem sets. So the problem sets correspond to that Eureka Math program. And then you can get the problems directly from your teacher page on ZEARN. However, it does not have the answer key. So the only answer keys that I found on ZEARN is for the assessments. But if you go to the greatminds.org website, you can, under resources, go to free materials. And then if you put your information in, then you can get access to these free materials. You can go to the grade 4, and then the teacher edition for that will have the answers. So for instance, for problem set, so this would be the mission 4, lesson 1. This one would have the answer key for those. And it includes the answer key for the sprint problems, as well as a problem set. And then there's also those homework problems. Usually the problem sets and the homework are the same problem types, but they offer different numbers, for instance. And then so if you have a section where you want to give additional problems, maybe one of the problems your student struggled with and you want to practice another one, then you can go to the homework problems and then just pull that specific corresponding corresponding number in that homework, and then it'll just give you another problem to solve for that area. So those are in that Great Minds website. So you'll have to go outside of ZEARN. But if you don't want to use any of those optional problem sets or homework, or you know the answers yourself, you don't need an answer key, then you can use those directly from the ZEARN website. So to go down to each of those topics, I mentioned, so there's the grade breakdown, there's the mission breakdown, and then in each mission, there's different topics. And so for topic A, we have place value of multi-digit whole numbers. So let's just pick the first lesson to show you. In that lesson, there's a fluency section, a guided practice, and then independent practice. So if I expand all of these, you can see that those lessons follow that similar structure. There's a fluency section at the beginning, a guided practice, that's where those videos would come in handy, and then the independent practice. So one of the options you can do is use just one part of this, or you can use all of them. So depending on how much you would want to do online would depend on how many of these you want to use. We usually did the fluency section and then the guided practice, while then doing a physical worksheet for that independent practice. So once she went through, let's say, the fluency sprints and then watched the video and walked through the problems in that guided practice, then we would have a printout of those problem sets. So in the fluency section, there's links to each of these. So the first one is a number gym. If you go and click on that, it will take you to a page and it gives you an activity to follow. So if you want to do that, you can, and then it starts to advance the numbers that are being used as the student goes on and as they get better at them. They also have an online sprint that you can follow. You can do the sprint on the computer, or you can similarly print those out. So in those teacher guided, like I told you before, they had the sprint answer sheets. So there are, in the teacher guide, there are sprint problems. So you can either have them do it on the computer through the ZEARN website, or you can print out the sprint sheets and have them do the sprint sheets by hand. So whatever you want to do, whatever works best for your student, it gives you those options and make them available to you. And these are usually, sprints are like 1 to 2 minutes where the student tries to do as many of the problems as they can. And then they usually have an A sheet and then a B sheet so that you can see if that sprint, that specific topic, they got more correct or they did more of the problems in that same allotted time to see if they're improving upon their number sense and their fluency. So if you want to do them online, you just click that button and it'll have a program that pops up for Sprint. And then it'll tell you, you have to answer as many as you can and it'll give you the time. And then this you would use your keyboard or you can use your mouse. So if I typed on my keyboard, I can hit the numbers, hit enter, or I can type them on here. So this may not be, they may not go through as many of these problems if they're not used to typing or using the mouse. So maybe in those instances, working on the worksheet would be better. But if they don't have a problem with this, or this is your only option, you can type on here. Okay. And then the video is under the math chat section. So it will pop up and have a video that you can follow. And there'll be these different sections. And usually in each of these sections, they have you work on that problem. So it's like giving you a little bit of guided video, and then you work through the problem and see if you get those correct. And then it'll move on to the next one, provide more video information, and have the student work through those problems. And then, so they're about, this one says it's about 8 minutes long for the video, but there is some breakouts in there where you're having the student follow along and answer some of the questions for each of the sections so that they don't have to try to watch all the video, remember everything, and then try out the problems. They get to try out the problems periodically throughout the video. And then that independent practice, you can either do that online. So if I click on that, you can see that you're doing the problem on the computer or your tablet, whatever you're using. So for this one, you can have it read to the student. If the student is doing this independently and they maybe can't read yet, it gives you a little speaker for that. And then you walk through the problem. So it says first, show 3 tens on the place value chart. So you use the plus and minus to add 3 tens and then hit enter. And then you go on to the next part of the problem. So now it says show 10 times 3 tens. So you start with 3, but then if I add it, it'll add another 3. And if you keep going, one more. Okay. And then you hit next, and now it moves on to the next part of the problem. So it's walking them through this problem set, but on the computer. So an alternative would be to get the problem sets printed out, and then they can do similar problems by hand on those worksheets. So whatever works best for you and how you want your student to learn, or how they learn the best for them, then you can go ahead and use either one. Or you can do both. Maybe this is what they do during the day, and then maybe they use the problem sets or the homework problems for them to do independently in the evening or the next day, just to make sure that they've still got an understanding of that. Okay? And so this keeps going, and you move on to those problems. Okay? And then there's usually a bonus. So if I expand all of these and I scroll down, you can see they even have them color-coded for you for the fluency section, the guided practice, and the independent practice. And some of the fluency problems may change. They give you different methods for using that. And then you can see even on this one, it says Learning Lab. So, but it's still the guided practice section. And then all of the missions have a similar structure. And then you can always use this at the top to go between different missions. So if maybe you're not using this full time, another option for you is if there's additional problems or there's an area maybe your student isn't quite grasping in the other curriculum that they're using, maybe you just want to have them go watch a video on a specific topic. So you can find the appropriate grade level, the mission, and then maybe it's a specific topic that you want them to go watch the video on. So I can go directly to that topic and I can find, oh, maybe I'm trying to figure out how to sum angles. And then I can just go directly to that guided practice. And that can help the student if you're not even wanting to use this as a full curriculum. So that is basically it. As I mentioned, you could do everything online through ZEARN.org, sign up as the teacher, and then you can work through the problems that way. If you want to get the physical answer sheets, you will need to go to the greatminds.org website and then go to resources, free materials, and then find your specific grade. This is also where you can get those. If you just wanted to get the sprint sheets, you don't have to necessarily go to the teacher edition. You can go to these additional student materials, and if you download those will have sprint and fluency worksheets on there. So this is another great alternative if you're just looking for a free resource for sprint and trying to improve fluency in different math facts. Then you could go and get just these sprints and other fluency sheets from Eureka Math. So that is the ZEARN program. As I mentioned, it goes through 8th grade, starting at kindergarten. So if you guys have any students that are in this grade level, this may be a good option for you. We did this for the first couple grades in our math program, and my daughter really liked it. It was engaging for her. She liked doing the videos. She liked working on the computer and having it be, hands-on on those problems. But I did add in physical worksheets for her to do for her independent practice, just because I thought it would be good for her to have something on paper where she was putting pencil to paper and getting that math completed in that portion of it. So, okay. So thank you. If you can, please, if you like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe and then like this video. And if you have any questions, leave comments down below. And I am more than willing to answer those and provide any other information that you guys might be looking for. So thank you, and have a good rest of your day. All right, bye.